I welcome you all to the video lecture on the topic Characteristics of Population in India. This is the second lecture in a sequence on this particular topic. In my earlier lecture, while explaining the demography of India, I explained the sources of demographic data or the sources of data which we collect for studying the various aspects of the population. I also mentioned that the census of India is the most important source of demographic data, and from that population census we do collect important data and we analyze various aspects of the population on the basis of the census data. I also mentioned some important facts regarding the census of India. In this particular lecture, my focus is on explaining various aspects of the population of India, various characteristics of the population of India. We can also say various features of population of India. So let us start discussion on the characteristics of population of India. There are 12 different aspects of population. Step by step, we will study these various aspects. At the very outset, I will explain the first characteristics of population, that is size and growth rate of population. How the size of the population is continuously increasing. We are very well aware with the fact that India is the second populous country of the world. China comes first in this rank and India is the second populous country of the world, and total population of India in as per the 2001 census, it was 121 crores. And roundabout in the current scenario, India's population reached up to 135 crores. So what is the growth rate of the population in different period, in different time period in our country, that I will mention here in this particular point. From 1981 to 1921, from 1891 to 1921, the population was stagnant. Stagnant means very slowly increasing. Very slowly increasing in the sense, the another meaning of the stagnant population is the constant rate of population. This is the first phase I am mentioning here. This is the phase before independence, that is from 1891 to 1921. We experienced the stagnant growth of population, means roundabout, near about, the population was constant. The second phase from 1821 to 1951. This is the phase before independence. In this phase, the population growth was steady. Steady population growth means slowly the population is increasing. Slowly the population is increasing because in this period, slowly there was an increase in the birth rate and there was a large amount of deaths used to occur. Therefore, the death rate was higher. The birth rate in this period was higher, but the death rate was also higher. Therefore, the population increased at a very slow level at a steady rate. The third phase is the phase after independence, that is from 1951 to 1981. These 3 decades, the population of our country, it increased at a higher growth rate. The India experienced the population explosion in our country in this period because after independence the government started providing medical facilities to the people. The government also given food security assurance to the people. Therefore, the death rate declined very sharply and the birth rate increased at a higher rate. Increasing birth rate and steadily declining death rate, it increased the net growth of population in our country in this period. Therefore, increasing birth rate and steadily declining death rate, it has increased the population in our country, and in this phase we experience the rapid high growth of population. The fourth phase of the population from 1981 to 2011. Here we experienced the high growth with definite signs of slowing down. Because of the population explosion, this population explosion started creating an adverse effects on the economy. Due to the increasing population, the economy was facing various severe problems, and due to that government adopted some measures, some preventive measures to slow down the growth of the population. And therefore, as a result of the initiative of the government and implementation of various programs in this line to decrease the population, the efforts taken by the government, the measures taken by the government, as a result of these, the birth rate started declining in this particular phase. But at the same time, the death rates also declining due to the medical facilities. And therefore, in this phase, we experienced high growth with definite signs of slowing down. Slowing down because in comparison to this particular phase, the birth rate declined in this phase of 1981 to 2011. After discussing this growth rate, different phases of the growth rate of population, now we will move towards the statistical data in order to analyze this particular point. Here, the statistical data, it shows particular data of the population. Here we can see on this bar diagram. This bar diagram shows from since 1901 the population of India is continuously increasing. This is the increasing graph we can see here. In the year 2011, the registered population of India was 121 crores. And in the particular chart, we can see the increasing population. And in this particular chart, the second table, the second diagram is given over here. Here we can see the decadal growth of population in India from 1951-61 to 2001 to 2011. In the first decade, that is from 1951 to 61, the growth of population was 21.46. And in 1961-71, the growth of population, it increased from 21 to 24.8%. Then in the next decade, the growth was constant. Then in the next 81 to 91, this decade, the growth of population declined from 24 to 23.87. And at last in 2010-2011, in this decade, the registered decadal growth rate of population was 17.64%. It means on the basis of this particular chart, we can conclude that at the initial, after independence, the growth rate, the decadal growth rate increased, and then it slowly started declining. And at last, the growth rate of population, decadal growth rate of population was 17.64%. So this is the diagram, the chart which shows the growth and size of population, growth rate and size of population of India. Now we will move towards the second important fact, second important aspect of the population, that is birth and death rates. The definition of birth rate is given here. The total number of births per thousand people in a given area at a given time is called the birth rate. And the definition of death rate is given here. The total number of deaths occurring per thousand people in a given area at a given time is called death rate. Here the most important point in this definition of birth rate and death rate is that how many people are taking birth per thousand of people, per thousand of population, and how many people are dying per thousand of people. These most important points we should remember here while studying the definition of birth rate and death rate. Now we will see the statistical data regarding the birth rate and death rate, because this is very important data, because it shows the net increasing population in a particular country. Here the data of birth rates and death rates is given in this particular table from 1891 to 2011. This is the decade 1891 to 1900, 1951 to 60, 1971 to 80. The decadal birth rate and growth death rates are given here in this table. When we observe the birth rate, here we can see, since from this period, initial period, the birth rate was continuously increased up to this 1970s, 1960s, and then afterwards the birth rate started declining, because in 1970s and 1980s, when we experienced the population explosion, the government started taking some preventive measures in order to reduce the births, in order to reduce the population of our country. Therefore, we controlled our birth rates then afterwards from 1980s. Here we can see the data which shows the declining birth rate. But on the other side, we can see continuously the death rate of our population is declining very steadily because of the medical availability of the medical facilities to the general public, because of the initiatives taken by the government for the improving health of the general public. At last, in the year 2010-11, the registered birth rate was 21.8 and death rate was 7.1. The gap between the birth rate and death rate, it shows the net increase in the population. So these are the facts related with the birth rate and death rate of the population of our country. Now in the next slide, here we can see the birth and death rate of different states of India, and the aggregation total of this rate is 22. Birth rate and death rate is 7.2. Infant mortality rate is 47, and mean age of marriage for the females in India was 19.4 years. So in the next slide, we can see the factor which determines the birth rate, increasing birth rate, is the mean age of marriage in that particular country. The mean age of marriage of Norway, for male it is 28 and for female it is 24. In case of India, the mean age of marriage in the year 2001, it was 22 years for the males and 18 years for the females. In earlier situation, we observed towards the mean age of marriage, it was 21 and 15 years. And before independence, it was 20 and 13 years. This mean age of marriage is very important factor which determines the growth rate of population of a particular country, or increasing population of a particular country. Because at a very earlier age, the male and female of India, they get married at the earlier age, means they will get an ample of time in the future for the increasing population. So therefore, this mean age of marriage, it is the important factor which determines the growth rate of the population. The next is the sex ratio, or we can say the male female ratio of the population. The sex ratio or male female ratio is measured as number of females per thousand of males. It is the very important indicator of the social development of the country. How we are treating towards the women, how what treatment we are giving to the women, that depends upon this data of the sex ratio. What approach is there of our society towards the females? What is the gender inequality status or gender inequality status in a particular country, that we can understand with the help of this data, that is sex ratio. In India, we can see the sex ratio in the year 1901 was 972, means 972 females used to get birth per thousand of males. And if we see this data in the year 2001, the 2001 per thousand males, that sex ratio was just 933. Earlier in 1991 it was 927. See this, look at this particular data on sex ratio in India. As per the recent census, the sex ratio is 940. In comparison to the earlier years, it is the satisfactory progress we are making in this particular area. But it is not very satisfactory at all. If we look towards the child sex ratio, the very child sex ratio, we can see in the next chart. Here this chart shows the child sex ratio. The line, it is showing the child sex ratio from 0 to 6 years. It is the graph which shows the child sex ratio is continuously declining, and in the recent population census it was 914. It is the overall sex ratio which is somewhat increasing, and it reached up to 940. But this is the dangerous and alarming situation for the India. The child sex ratio for the age group from 0 to 6 is steadily declining. This is the fact, another important fact of or aspect of the population of India. Now after this discussion, we will move towards the another chart which shows the sex ratio of different countries of the world. In China, the sex ratio was 926. In USA, this sex ratio is 1025. In Brazil, sex ratio is higher. In Russia, it is higher. In Japan, it is higher. But in case of India, it is lower. Indonesia, it is lower. In Nigeria, it is lower. But in comparison to these underdeveloped countries, the sex ratio of India is very lower in comparison to other developing countries of the world, other underdeveloped countries of the world. So these are the facts about the sex ratio of the population in India. Now after discussion of the sex ratio, this is the chart which shows the sex ratio of the various states in India. In Kerala, the sex ratio is highest, that is 1084, and the lowest sex ratio we can see here in Madhya Pradesh, 930. Gujarat 918, Bihar 916, Uttar Pradesh very lowest 908, and in the developed states like Punjab, the very lowest sex ratio was registered in Punjab, that is 893. For Haryana, it is 877. So it is very alarming and dangerous situation which depicts that still in India we do discriminate on the basis of the sex, on the basis of the gender, on the basis of the gender. So therefore, the picture which shows that it is an alarming situation for the Indian society. This is the fact about the sex ratio. And the next characteristics or the next feature now we are going to discuss, that is rural and urban population. How the population is distributed in rural and urban area. It is one of the indicators of the economic development. Means when the population is migrating towards the urban area, it indicates that that economy is developing. In India, we can see since 1901, the population of the rural area, the population who resides in the rural area is declining, and the population at the urban area is increasing. It is a good indicator. It indicates that the development process of the particular country is going on, because the more and more people they are coming towards the urban area for their livelihood and for the employment purpose, instead of depending on the rural and agricultural sector. In the year 2011, the total proportion of rural population was 68.8%, and total proportion of urban population which was 31.2%. This is the facts about urban and rural population. Now the next characteristics is about the state-wise population in India. While studying this particular point, state-wise population of India, here we can see the population of Uttar Pradesh is highest, the 16.49% of the total population of the country. Second comes Maharashtra, third comes Bihar, fourth comes West Bengal, fifth comes Andhra Pradesh, sixth Madhya Pradesh, and seventh Tamil Nadu. These are the highest populous states of the country. In the same way, we can see the population of different states of our country. The lowest population is registered in the Sikkim state, and Andaman, Nicobar, Diu Daman. These are the union territories. So this is the scenario of the state-wise distribution of population in India. I would like to mention some important fact here, that the combined population of Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra is larger than the population of total United States of America. Such a huge population is concentrated in only two states of our India, Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. The combined population of Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra, it is bigger than the combined population of United States of America, that particular country. The India's population, total population of India, is more than the combined population of 5 countries of the world. The total population of India is more than the or bigger than the population of 5 countries: United States of America, Indonesia, Brazil, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. The aggregate, the combined population of these 5 countries is less than the population of only India. Such a huge population, we can see the data of such a huge population is there in India. This is the another fact of the population. Now we will move towards the next characteristics of the population, that is density of population. I will explain these characteristics in my next lecture. In this particular lecture I stop here. Thank you very much.